Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to Conversations Here and Now. My name is Naresh. Thank you for being here with me. Does anyone really know what they're doing? Does anyone? That feeling that nobody really knows what they're doing is far more common and more normal than people admit. And strangely, it can be one of the most reassuring truths about life. That's a strange way to put things, right? So let's look at this. Let's talk about this. Here's why it happens and why it's actually okay. So let's start with looking at a really important point, which is point number one: life has no instruction manual. That goes for everyone, whether you're parents, yourself, grandparents, it doesn't matter. Life has no instruction manuals. Okay, there's no manual sitting out there saying 100% this is what you have to do in these situations. Unlike school or job with training, life itself doesn't come with clear rules or guaranteed outcomes. Every major decision, career, relationships, retirement, that's me, I've been retired for a couple of years, is filled with uncertainty. Have that every day. People aren't failing to know. There's simply nothing definitive to know, right? So that's exactly what it is. Every day you run into situations that you're not sure about. You're not sure how to proceed, move forward in that circumstance. And that's how it is with everyone. Nobody has anything written down. They were born with, and they can look at, open this manual and say, oh, in this situation, this is how, what I should do, and this is what the outcome will be, right? So every situation, every circumstance is different for everyone. So from then, we come to point number two, which is everyone is improvising always, right? Even the people who seem confident are mostly working from past experiences, what you've learned in the past. Your past experiences will be a lot when you're in your 50s and 60s, maybe even 40s. Your past experiences will be few when you're 15, 16, 17, 18, going into your early 20s and even the entire 20s. They start building from there on. So you can work from that. Trial and error. So you had a lot of situations by the time you hit 50s, 60s, 70s, of course. You've had a lot of situations which you've gone through, which you've learned from trial and error. Everything, sometimes things work out okay, sometimes it don't. I myself I was, graduate of the School of Hard Knocks. So you learn from your trial and error, right? Everyone is improvising. Educated guesses. Where do educated guesses come from? From your past experiences and from your trial and error. And nowadays, you also have the internet that's available, where that you can go on and check out things. They may point out general things. They may not apply to your situation all the time, but you can check out things. We didn't have that when in the 80s and 90s and 2000s. So all we had was past experiences and trial and error, which led us to our educated guesses. So everyone is improvising. And why is that? Point number three: the world changes too fast. What worked 10 to 20 years ago may not work today. Technology, finances, health advice, social norms, politics, everything is always constantly shifting now, really fast. So even real experts are continuously adopting, and we're not experts, we're just everyday people. Uh, Technology changes every day. There was in the 80s and 90s, it was moving slowly, but then came the 2000s, the internet came, and then from then on, it's like a roller coaster now. Technology just zooms ahead, and it's very hard to keep up with it, even for young people. But people like me, it's really difficult to keep up with it. Finances are pretty much still the same. You got, yes, economic conditions change, but you still got to save money. You got to save for retirement, rainy day, etc., etc. So that advice, still stays the same. Health advice, that changes. 50 years ago, people used to smoke. Now people know it's bad for you. 50 years ago, people used to, drink a lot. Now alcohol, and now it's not good for you. 50 years ago, me used to drink a lot of Coke, Diet Coke, whatever. Then it was found out, oh, Coke is bad for you because it has so much sugar in it. And we all went to Diet Coke. And then guess what? That's not good for you. Diet Cola is not good for you. So health advice is always changing. There's new stuff coming in. One day, wine is good for you. One day, it's not good for you, right? So all that stuff is available. We didn't have that stuff available to us in the 80s and 90s, and now all that stuff is available for you to make your decisions on the internet. So what that points out, though, is the world changes really fast, and you have to try and keep up with it, right? Again, not everyone knows what they're doing. Which leads me to point number 4. Confidence does not equal clarity. Most people confuse confidence with competence. A lot of people can sound sure of themselves and still be figuring out things in real time. Some people have a real knack for this. They'll really sound sure to you, oh yeah, this is how exactly things work. Oh, if you do this, this is how it'll be. But inside, they're not really sure. They themselves aren't really sure about their own issues every day, right? So just because somebody you're talking to is really confident, yeah, I know how this is going to turn out, doesn't necessarily mean that that's how things will turn out, right? And that can be a good thing. Some people, they're very confident about things and they'll take steps forward, right? And things sometimes work out and things sometimes don't work out, and they know that, right? So confidence in life doesn't always mean clarity completely, that you know exactly what you're doing, right? Which leads me to my next point, which is you only see the surface. You only see the surface. You see other people's outcomes, not their doubts, mistakes, or internal struggles. Behind the scenes, most people are asking, am I doing this right? Is this the best decision? What if I'm wrong, right? And even when you get to your, of course, you ask those 3 questions. Am I doing this right? Is this the best decision? And what if I'm wrong? People ask a lot, when they're graduate high school, go to university, early point, they get their first job and then they move forward. So those are the 3 questions you ask a lot in your life, and those, become, and you don't necessarily have the answers to those questions in every situation, right? So which is where you go with educated guesses. But when you get older in life, like 40s, 50s, you've had your experiences already, 60s, not every situations, but a lot of situations. You've graduated through the School of Hard Knocks, and then you can say, am I doing this right? Yeah, I think I'm doing this right. Where in the 20s, you may not have been able to say that. Is this the best decision? You may know that now if you get to 50s and 60s, but you may not have known that when you were 20s. In 20s, is it going to hurt me if I drink a lot? Now you know that it is going to hurt you. It's not the best decision. And what if I'm wrong? And then in the 20s, you're worried, what if I'm wrong? Now you say, okay, let's move forward with this. If I'm wrong, then I'll deal with the consequences. Otherwise, you just sit there and do nothing, right? So, and all of this that I've just pointed out, these doubts and this and that, all this can be a good thing. You know why? Let's go over the points for that. Why this is actually a good thing. Not knowing everything can be actually a good thing. Not knowing what you're doing can actually be a good thing because it gives you freedom. If nobody has it all figured out, none of the 8 billion people have it all figured out, you don't need to either. You're allowed to experiment, change direction, and redefine your success. So let's talk about experiment. If in a situation, you're in, and you think, oh, okay, well, I don't know what the answer will be. So to this situation, whether it's at work or in your personal life, then you say, okay, this is what I'm going to do because this is my best educated guess. Now you can check it on the internet as well and say, well, this is what the internet says. This is what a lot of other people's experiences, right? So I'll do this and let's see what happens. It may work out. It may not work out. But at least you move ahead. You experiment with it. If it doesn't work out, then you can change direction, right? So it gives you freedom. You have that freedom when you do this. And once you change direction and things do work out, they should. If they didn't work out with one method you tried, then it should work out with something else, right? So then that's how you redefine success. And then you remember that for the future. You don't make the same mistake again. You don't go through problems again because you know what happened in your past with that experience. I'll give you a good example. If you're speeding, trying to get to work fast. Maybe in the past when you're in your 20s, you do it. You maybe, got to work quickly at one time, but the next time you either get a ticket or you can get into a collision. Then for the future, right? And you won't make that same mistake again, right? Now if you smoke, then there's a good chance you're going to hurt yourself with health. Even secondhand smoke is bad for you. Now you're not going to do it. So you change direction, and you're not, if you started, you know this information, then you can stop and change direction and redefine your life with that. So mistakes become normal. Mistakes aren't proof. That's point number 2. Mistakes become normal. Mistakes aren't proof that you lost. They're part of how everyone navigates. Trial and error isn't a flaw in the system in your life. It is life. You don't learn in life if you don't make mistakes. That's what part of life is about. That's what part of being successful is about. Take a chance, right? But I mean, you make sure you don't hurt anybody or yourself, but take a chance on the decision that you make. And if you make a mistake, then you remember that. You learn from it, and you turn that into a positive for the future. You pivot, do the right thing, and you turn that into a success. So mistakes become normal because that's how you learn, always in life. Success doesn't come from just sitting there trying to figure out and not doing anything, right? So that's point number 2. And then once you make, your mistakes and learn from them, point number 3 is you can trust your own judgment more then. Instead of waiting for the right answer from others, you start building confidence in your own decisions over time. And how do you build confidence in your decisions over time? Because you've had the past experiences, you've had the trial and errors, and you've made your mistakes. This is what life is all about. But you still don't know everything. You're not going to know. You may run into situations in your 30s and 40s and 50s that you haven't run across in your 20s or your teenager years, because you won't. You don't need to run into those situations. So every time you run into a situation, you take a step and you say, okay, this is what worked out this time. This is what didn't work out this time. And you remember that for the future. And that's how you trust your own judgment more. And then from that comes the growth. It comes from uncertainty. Growth comes from uncertainty. If everything were clear and predictable, there would be no growth, as I've said. Not knowing forces learning, adaptation, and resilience. That's how you learn. You learn from your failures. That's part of learning. You learn to adapt to situations, and you remember those situations for the future. And you become resilient. You don't become stressed out every time because you've gone through these situations before. Yes, there's lots of stresses in life when you first start your new job. You're learning everything, but once you become good at it, then you become resilient. You learn things, and there's still mistakes that you're going to make, even in your job, in your life, but you learn, you adopt, and that's how you become resilient. And you remember those mistakes. Remember your successes. If you took a step and it turned out really well, then you know in the future that step will turn out really well. And that's how you do things. So a simple way of looking at it is most people aren't lost. They're in progress. The difference between someone who seems like they know what they're doing and someone who doesn't is often just this. One keeps moving despite uncertainty, the other waits for certainty before moving. So I would suggest to people, don't get frozen in time. Again, we didn't all come with, we weren't all born with manuals for every situation in life. So there will be many, many days of many, many situations of uncertainty in your life. What you have to do is take your use your past experiences, what you have, use trial and error, and make an educated guess and move forward in life. Don't stay frozen. If you make a mistake, then you learn from it. If it was a success, that step that you took that moved forward, then you know that was a success, and you remember that for the future. Okay? So bottom line is nobody fully knows what they're doing. Not at 25, not at 45, not at 55, not at 62, not at 65, not at 75, because you still make mistakes. You still ask. Okay? And that's not a problem to fix. It's the reality that makes creative possible. Creativity comes, when you make mistakes and you learn. Reinvention possible when you make mistake, you learn and reinvent and do things in a different way. A meaningful life possible. Of course, you know what? You can always ask, how do you, try to avoid some mistakes by asking your parents, asking if you have older brothers and sisters, asking from friends. You can try and find out. Again, now you also have internet available, so you can try and find out how this would be. For example, is there any harm to having, a glass of wine every day? You can check the internet and it'll tell you from educated guesses. And even those are really not 100%. They're educated guesses. that this is what would happen. And but again, the information changes over time. As I had said before, things change. 5 years ago, they said, oh, 1 glass of wine every day is okay. And now they're saying, no, alcohol, no amount of alcohol is good for you because it's considered a carcinogen. So things are always changing in life. So, but again, you really don't know. You at any point in your life, you really don't know about everything. You do start knowing stuff as you go along, but you really don't know about everything, right? You learn as you go along. Nobody really knows what they're doing. So this is my final thing on this. Nobody really knows what they're doing. Not the successful people, not the confident people, not even the people giving the advice, okay? Everybody's doing some type of guessing, learning, adjusting, just like you are, just like I do every day. And what's the difference? Some people move forward anyway. They don't wait for certainty. They don't wait to feel absolutely ready. I got to be ready to do this. They act, they learn, they adopt. And that's how you have to be in life. You got to act, you got to learn, you got to adopt and learn from your mistakes. And over time, it looks like they had it figured out all along, but they didn't. So if you feel unsure, lost, or behind, that's fine. You're not failing. You're doing exactly what life requires, and that is to figure things out as you go along, using your past experiences that you've had, the trial and error you did in the past, and you learn from them, and then you can make educated guesses and move forward. So that's how it is in life for everyone. So I hope you like what I talked about today. Please please subscribe, and please turn on your notifications, and please share it with your friends. Thank you for all my subscribers for being here with me. And if you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. And in the comments, let me know how you figure out life as you go along. Is it trial and error always? Like, how you've learned about things as you've gone along? These are really good points in life. And please leave a comment as to where you're listening from. It's always good to know where in the world you are that you're listening from. And thank you again for being here with me. Please, again, please subscribe, please turn on your notifications, share with your friends. It helps us with the algorithms. And there's no paywalls here. Everything is free. So help us out. Thank you very much. We'll see you at the same place, same time, same channel next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.